Hey everyone, Regal Reviews here. It is Wednesday. So tonight's episode definitely made up for the rotten episode last week. It was probably my favorite episode this whole season. To recap on tonight's episode, the characters are still dealing with a lot. You have Emma, who's still trying to deal with the fact that she has those tremors and like losing control for magic, and she's struggling with how she should tell her parents and if she should tell them. And I'm like, why don't you just tell them already? I mean, it's obviously worse when you don't tell them. And David, well, before I get to David, there's more about Emma. She sees Hook in the grannies of this little kid, and he's having a good time. He puts like whipped cream on his nose to make the kid laugh, and it was funny. It was nice seeing a different side of Hook like that, but that made me think, like, are they hinting to a future Captain Swan baby? Not sure. But David actually makes a deal with Gold, and I don't think we've ever seen David make a deal with Gold before, and he wants information about the coin, about his father, because the Queen said last week that his father's death might not have been an accident like he thought. And he makes a deal that he gives the information to David in exchange that David gives this tape to Belle. And David actually finds out that his father's death was not an accident, in fact, that he was stabbed. And to who his killer is, we don't know yet. They'll probably, reveal that in the next couple episodes. And what Belle actually got was Gold on tape saying this little verse to his child, and again, that was sweet. It was nice to see a different side of Gold. Regina is upset because because apparently the Queen is one step ahead of her. Regina tried to get information from Hyde with her world famous lasagna, as we all know, and we all know red pepper flakes gives that extra kick. But the Queen already beat them to it, and Hyde is willing to give Regina information, but he wants the cuffs off his hands, so pretty steep price. So she's trying to figure out, like, how could she get ahead of the Queen, and she figures out that the cracks in the family, that's how you work with that. So she goes to talk to Zelena, and Zelena is pretty tired of Regina judging her, and Regina sees that the Queen gave Zelena their mother's rattle, and Regina wants it back, but Zelena's like, that's the only heirloom she has of her mother, and I can see where Zelena's coming from, because she's never known Cora, so that's the only thing she has of her. And Zelena says that if you're the one that needed saving, that you split yourself in half, so it's actually your fault. What I found interesting is that the Queen had an interaction with Henry, and it was like the best thing ever, because the Queen is said basically what we've been thinking and saying these past 6 seasons, is that first of all, Henry said that to the Queen to get away from his mother, quote unquote Emma. Well, the Queen then says, Henry, I'm your real mother. I've packed your lunches for school. I've been there when you were sick. And I'm like, thank you for telling everyone what we've been saying for how many years. I mean, it's so frustrating how Henry doesn't see Regina as his real mother. So Snow is looking to get things back to normal in town. She wants to start teaching again. We haven't seen Snow teach since season 1. And she wants David to not concentrate on vengeance with the information about his father, but wants him to, like, be sheriff and be a father to Neil. I mean, as Snow pointed out before, it's always defeat and repeat. Like, they go on these journeys, and they defeat them, and then they go on another one and defeat, repeat. But David actually lies to Snow and doesn't burn the information. He actually keeps it to himself. But what I found interesting is that Cinderella returned in this episode, and we haven't seen her since season 1, and she apparently, we know what her storybook job is. She's running the daycare. And can I just say, Alexandra, her baby, is so cute. And we got to see a different spin on the classic Cinderella tale. They get an invitation from the ball, and it isn't the butler that gives it, it's the footman, and they're very cruel to the footman. They rather the invitation come from the butler. And they're looking for dresses to wear to the ball, and Cinderella asks if she can go and shows her mother's dress, which I've always loved Cinderella in the pink dress. I think that's so, it looks so elegant on her, and it's her mother's dress, and her stepmother burns her mother's dress, and that scene, and even in the animated Cinderella, that scene always gets to me. It's just so hard to watch. I actually had to look away at one point. But Cinderella, as we know, ends up going to the ball, and she has a great time with Thomas, and that's where she actually meets Snow for the first time. And Cinderella said that he's kind of charming, and Snow says, "Oh, that's taken," so that was kind of funny. But they have a great time, and Cinderella sees what she thinks that Thomas is actually interested in her stepsister, because he gives her a rose and everything, so Cinderella leaves the ball and leaves the glass slipper behind. But we find out later that that wasn't the case, that Cinderella, well, Thomas is actually interested in Cinderella, and we learn from her stepsister that she is actually getting married to the footman, and you know, she's in love with the footman, but she's been putting on an act for her mother for how many years, and that her and Cinderella have been living in this, they've both been living in misery in their mother's trap, and that was actually a twist. I didn't expect that, but it was definitely interesting. And Cinderella gives her stepsister a key that her mother gave her, and it's actually a key to the untold stories. And we're wondering in Storybrooke why Ashley has this gun. We're thinking that she's going to kill her stepsister because of what she did to her, but they don't know the whole story yet. And what they find out is that Cinderella actually revealed her stepsister and her fiance's location, and because her stepmother was going to break the glass shoe, but she ended up breaking it anyway, even after Cinderella told them. So she tries to go to their hiding place to stop it, and her evil stepmother stabs Clorinda's fiance, and she was going to hit him again, but her stepmother is very tired of working so hard and nothing, well, her idea of working hard and nothing coming out of it, so she decides to go to the untold stories, and she actually takes Clorinda with her. And we find out her stepmother's actually set a trap, and Clorinda looks like she's hurt, and while she's distracted, the stepmother actually grabs the gun and wants to shoot Cinderella, and we find out that where they're actually at is at her stepsister's fiance's farm. So there looks like there's going to be a showdown between the stepmother and Ella actually sacrifices herself for her stepsister, and her stepmother doesn't shoot her, she stabs her. And I was sad because I thought Cinderella was gonna die, but they wanted Emma to save her because she has the savior powers, but because she's had those tremors, she didn't think she could save her, but she worked her magic and she was actually able to save Cinderella. So I was so happy about that. I was literally in my seat. I was like really crying. At the end of the episode, Hyde and the Queen team up. The Queen actually frees Hyde and they walk out together. So I'm wondering if Hyde and the Queen are going to have a romance going on, or if they're just going to have a partnership like Cora and Hook were in the past. That should be interesting. Seems like next week there's a showdown between Hyde and David and Emma. And also, we're going to see some more of Jekyll and Hyde's story, so that'll be interesting. And what they said next week is that Hyde said that Jekyll's actually the monster, and that's what I'm thinking. Like, I don't think Jekyll's as trustworthy as he seems. So, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's Once Upon a Time. If you guys want to catch Once Upon a Time, it is on Sundays, 8 p.m. on ABC. I hope you guys enjoyed my Once Upon a Time recap, and until next time, stay regal.